What up, fam? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. It's officially dry jock season. Eagles schedule release is upon us. This is â²ï Wednesday nights. Let's break it down.
I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
Welcome in, everybody. This is â²ï Wednesday nights, only on â²ï Radio every Wednesday. We are brought to you by âž²ï's Bread. New location in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Go check them out. Home of the best stuffed bread, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutways, meatballs, you name it. Mention â²ï, get 10% off your in-store order. Go check out âž²ï's Bread. Sixers, did they hold on to the 16th pick of this upcoming NBA draft, where it seems like there's no players in this draft? Might be the worst draft of all time. I don't know. But we'll talk about that later on the show. Phillies, Mets, we'll go over the first three games in this series. Phillies take the first three. Still hot as a pistol. We'll talk Phillies, Ranger Suarez, everything about the Phils, because they're getting it done with guys out too. I mean, this is a great time to be a Phillies fan. It's a great time. But our main topic at hand, where I mentioned that's officially dry jock season, because this is when everybody comes on out. Eagles schedule has been released, and it ties right into our poll question, and you can vote on it. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. The Eagles have a tougher path to the playoffs than what's today's date? May 15th. Yeah, okay. The Eagles have a tougher path.
It's May 15th
to the playoffs. I had to make sure it was a little cold out. I had to make sure we weren't in fall. You know, we weren't like at the beginning of September. It's upon us. So the Eagles have a tougher path to the playoffs than most teams. You agree or disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Comment in. Tell us how you feel. I couldn't disagree more. How do they have a tougher path? We don't even know what these teams are going to be. We still got so much time ahead. But let's act like we're starting it in a week from now. No, they don't have a tougher path. I mean, the team's got to play us. I mean, I don't, I'm not going to come into this year like we're scared of something. It's Super Bowl or bust time. There's no in between. There's no like, oh, you get to an NFC title game, that's a win. None of that matters. And if you think it isn't, I can't help you anymore. I cannot help the people out there that are going to tell me, well, just get over a hump. What hump? Rebound from last year. Absolutely not. Your rebound from last year is everything you went and did this offseason. That's your rebound. You don't go out and sign the guys you did and bring in the kind of offensive firepower that you have and brought back and do the things you've done and tell me that it's anything less than going back to a Super Bowl. It's nothing less. And the teams I play really do not matter to me. This isn't a gauntlet of a schedule. This isn't the hardest schedule ever put on paper. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I get Packers home a season opener. All right, they're good. They're a good football team on paper. Falcons, they're going to be better with Kirk Cousins, maybe. Saints, they don't even have a quarterback, and if Derek Carr be hurt in a week or two anyway, by that point. Buccaneers, good. I'm not going to say they're not good, but who knows? Browns were a good football team. Giants stink out loud. Bengals are good. I get it. Jaguars, everybody's good on paper, right? You can make the case. Oh, everybody's good on paper. Panthers stink. Steelers stink. I don't care. They're going to be tough like they always are, but they don't have a quarterback either. Commanders are going to be playing a puppy. Cowboys, Giants. I mean, it's not. And obviously you have the Ravens in there that are a real good football team. But this isn't like the hardest schedule ever put to paper when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, and especially isn't when I don't know if Lamar Jackson, might be out with a torn ACL at that point of the year. So, right, I don't do this. I base this on how good is my football team. I've never done this for you guys on shows with me. I don't go rattling off the games. Who do I think we are? I'll leave my rant this. Who do we think we are? And we think that we're one of the best teams in the NFC. So my path ain't tougher. The only thing stopping my path is me and what we do as a team. That's the only thing stopping my path. So, no, I believe the Eagles are a 13-win mark type team again. That's who I think they are, right? So I'm not going to waver on who we play. You can line up the top 10 teams in football and say, hey, this is your first 10 weeks. One, I don't know how many guys are going to get hurt by then, for me or for them. This is the league full of like, who's the healthiest team at the end? We've had that conversation forever. So the Eagles are loaded. So if we're scared about who we're playing, shit, I had those teams here before. I had those teams where I was worried about, we gotta play them. Of course we gotta play them on opening night. Right? Like, no, I'm not worried about it. We're loaded. We're the big bad wolf, and let's act like it. But what do you guys say?
Yeah, I'll disagree, and I agree with you. And the best point you made was probably just like the other teams. Like, why should we be worried about other teams? If you look at it, what were the needs this offseason? They filled it, and they actually got better in areas that, if you ask me, going into the summer, area time, going into the spring, do you need to get better at running back? I'd probably say no. I was cool with bringing back Swift, and you upgrade there. And the secondary, I was cool with just bringing one guy in that you felt confident in, probably a first-round pick. They brought a ton of guys in, and they brought back Gardner Johnson, something that we've wanted to do in starting the middle of last season. So definite disagree. I don't know how you can't feel confident going into this season. And as you say, like, I feel like every team at this point in the middle of May is insanely confident, at least the better half of the league, in their team. So this is pretty much just going to be a show where we all kind of, blow the Eagles a little bit. But why wouldn't we? I mean, we're really freaking good. And while everyone's healthy, we have full potential to be a Super Bowl team. I don't see any team out there right now that is more talented than we are. So definite disagree.
All right, back to back.
I believe the proper term there, Luke, is glaze the Eagles.
Yeah, I have
that's our word on the show.
Too much of that with me lately. Had to get off.
Yeah, I mean it's early to go. I'm not going to go team wise for the in the interest of having an argument on the other side. There is a slight concern that despite the first game being a quote unquote home game, somebody mentioned earlier, week 5 bye week. It's early in the season, and 5 of the first 7 games, and I'm including that game in Brazil, are on the road. So that kind of concerns me a little bit. Just kind of constantly being kind of all over the place. Slight concern. So I'm going to agree simply just to talk about the other side. Team-wise, you're right, Tom. I mean, it's not like it's a gauntlet of teams early in the season. Green Bay's a good team. Baltimore is a really solid team early on. But other than that, there's nobody that really, strikes fear into me in terms of what they'd be facing. And, Tampa Bay's a decent team. They beat us last year, but we're coming back locked and loaded. So, I have faith in the guys they brought in. But if there was to be a concern, it's the fact that they are really front loaded with road games, including one of the home games.
Yeah, I would actually say that's not a concern because now I'm playing more home games at the end of the year, where I'm the most banged up. So maybe that's a blessing that you're out on a tough stretch early on. You know what I mean? To play devil's advocate with it. Where at home, later on, you get a little bit more home games.
So I really want to agree with Chrome. I do, because I do think the other side of the argument is warranted, but I can't. And Tommy, you kind of hit the nail on the head. This is something, God, you and I have been talking about for years. And Greg, we've talked about this for years. When you look at the schedule and you see the fact that this team doesn't have to get on an airplane after they come back from Los Angeles, that means the night of November 24th, they come home from LA after that Sunday night game. They don't get on another airplane until potentially the playoffs or the Super Bowl. They have games against Baltimore and Washington on the road. Both of those are a bus ride or a train ride. They have 4 out of their last 5 at home. So, I hear every word you're saying, Chrome, about the beginning of the schedule. I don't like it. I don't like the way the schedule starts at all. This is a team built for the second half of the season. They went out, they signed an all-pro running back. NFC East teams ground and pound in December. This team is going to ground and pound in December. They're going to find themselves on top of division. But that said, Tommy, I also don't have them at 13 wins.
They better.
I'm a little conservative on that. We can talk about that when you start to get into win totals with everybody else.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. I'm halfway with you, Chrome, right? I'll halfway agree with you. But it's just solely the buy placement, right? It has nothing to do with the actual schedule. It's just solely the buy placement, right? I think I was reading somewhere like no team has ever won a Super Bowl coming out of a Week 5 bye or even anything prior to Week 7 bye. So that's my only concern. I'm with you 100% everywhere else. Tommy and Luke and Mike, right? I don't really care the schedule, how it rolls out. Like, even though we're in Brazil, then we come back with a Monday night game. So that's like an extended rest. So I'm not too concerned. But that buy placement is where. And by the way, just book it now. I'll be at Tampa Bay. So book that as a loss just right off the jump, right? So our first loss of the year might be Tampa Bay because I'll be there, right? So
they don't lose a lot of games I go to, Greg. I may have to counter the mush by coming down.
Counter that, yeah.
Countering a mush.
That time that Chrome and I invaded Washington D.C.
And they smoked them.
Yeah, but we were both so hungover that day. I don't even remember half of that game.
Oh, me either. I just remember the Eagles. I think they locked up the division that day, and the team was over in the end zone cheering with us.
Yep.
That's all I remember from it.
SJM says, any hesitation, not mine, comes purely down to whatever contributed to the landslide last year. Was it resolved with adding talent, or is it Sirianni or Hurts? A combo of both? Did they fix it? Great question. It's a great question. It's a great point, right? That's you got to change whatever happened. But the way, to the point about being on the road early on, hopefully that can sort of bring you together as a team a little bit, and you sort of get that out of your system earlier. I don't really give a crap when the bye is. It's not going to make me healthier, right? It's nice to get that rest and get that rest later on in the season, but you can get that rest by winning your division. You can get that rest by being a 1 seed. You want to get yourself on a bye week, right? Lock things up, right? Lock things up early where you can do that and get yourself a breather. So, I know, that's a great little fun stat that no teams, going to a Super Bowl with a Week 5 bye or before. I don't know. That's such a weird random stat. I don't know. Now
where else do you find those but Twitter, right? Where else do you find those but Twitter, right?
Yeah, I don't want to buy into that, but that's a little weird. How many of those teams have won divisions or had bye weeks, going into the playoffs, right? How many? I think I need some more answers on that. Which
so
I'll never
see
get.
If I can refine tweet. But to what your Luke's main point was, right, with the off season that we've had, adding the depth that we have added over this year, I think is going to benefit us during that second half of the year, right? When you're looking at the 2 guards that we draft late in the draft, right? You look at Becton that we brought in, just from the offensive side of the football, and then all those corners and safeties that we now have at our disposal. The involvement and or uptick in adding linebackers, right? Devin White, Trotter Jr. Those are all going to pay dividends at some point this year. And I don't know whether Howie knew he had was looking at an early buy or whether he was just obviously building the best team that he could build. But he was definitely on to something with some of these depth pieces that he was able to bring in over this offseason.
He ain't done yet either. If he is who we think he is and who he previously has been, he normally makes one move right before the season starts, May on, that ends up being a key addition. Whether it might be a depth guy, like a Chris Long or LeGarrette Blount or one of those guys, and those were huge guys when we ended up winning the Super Bowl. I don't think he's done yet.
Well, Luke, I think you're spot on, brother, because if you look at their roster as it's constructed right now, they have 10 corners on their roster that could actually play in the NFL.
Yeah.
So there's, they keep 5, maybe 6. There's going to be corners that they wind up trading for perhaps, like you said, that last piece, that last guy that they need right before the season starts.
And everyone's so big on Blankenship. I like him, and he's a cool story for, I think he was undrafted. So, sure, you hit on that pick, and that's fine. I see a guy in Justin Simmons out there, and the longer he waits and the longer he's not on a team, I want him over playing over Blankenship all day long. I wouldn't surprise me at all if that's a guy that they bring in there too. That's another all-pro, Pro Bowl level safety that they could bring in.
Yeah, it's another guy. The longer he sits there, the more it's going to benefit. It's going to give you an opportunity. I do think having Vic Fangio and the success he had under Vic Fangio, right? I think it gives you a leg up if he's willing to take like a 1-year prove-it deal. And John brought it up down here and was going to bring that up as well. You still have the June 1st cuts that are coming too. So there are going to be players available. There always is. There's going to be guys that get cut in camp. So, I mean, how many players over the years have we found? How many in that Super Bowl year did we find guys that were, camp cuts and guys that they picked up, kind of just stragglers off of teams? And I think that's one thing Howie does really well. He identifies those guys who were kind of out there and kind of backed into a corner of a prove-it situation, and they've succeeded here. So I have all the faith in the world. They're going to, whatever little nuances they need to plug in here and there, they're going to be able to get it done.
Chrome, you nailed that. I mean, that championship season, trading basically like a bag of balls for Jay Ajayi. I mean, that was huge.
God. Signing LeGarrette Blount for nothing.
Yep, and Chris Long.
I might have been the most excited.
You guys don't even have to go back that far. I mean, you go back to the last Super Bowl run. They didn't win it, but Ndamukong Suh.
Yep.
Right, and then
Linval Joseph.
Joseph. So, know he needed some D tackle help. Went out, got himself some D tackle help. So, I'll never bet against Howie going out and trying to pull the trigger on things that are going to help this football team, leading up to the season and during the season too. So if there's holes, he's going to try to address them. But that being said, there's not many with this roster. There's not many roster at all.
No, it's one thing with Howie. There's never a time where he's not looking to improve the roster. Whether it's 2-3 weeks after the season ends, straight up until whenever the season actually does end, whether it's playoff run or Super Bowl, whatever it is, he is constantly looking to see what's available and making moves, in any fashion that he can. And I appreciate that as a fan of this team.
I'm still shocked that Ndamukong Suh wasn't brought onto this last year's team. That's still one of those baffling moves that you sit there all year and you're like, you're still there, you're still available.
Yeah, unless he just didn't want to play anymore, right?
Right, yeah.
Unless he's just worn out. Calais Campbell's a great name, Greg.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a monster human being. So,
that Ndamukong Suh thing, though, I think, that guy's been around the block a few times. He may very well have looked at this team and looked at that defense and went, no, this is a shit show. I'm not signing there again this year.
Yeah, very well could have.
For sure.
Because we all saw that from sitting at home, too. So that was it. That was an easy C. Umberto says, Hurts is on the clock this year, better perform. Yeah, I would say so.
So when the pundits around the NFL said that your quarterback, your Pro Bowl quarterback, is the weakest skill position player on your offense, I mean, I think your offense is pretty stacked.
Right. He doesn't have to have a Pro Bowl All-Pro year to us to average 28, 30 points a game. That's the craziest part about it.
Well, if you want to win football games, he does.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. But
because what he did last year it was atrocious. I mean, the turnovers, you're not going to win. They're not going to win football. I don't care how good they are. I'll yell this one. They're loaded. If he turns the football over at a high rate, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. Any football team is. You can't have that. He got a little out of control with the football last year. That's usually not his MO. But I mean, not only fumbles, and the fumbles alone, he had a lot of fumbles, right? And that's just trying to do too much. I always believe that with quarterbacks. So he's got to clean that up. I believe he will, right? But he has to clean that up. That's if he turns the football over like he did last year. Is that Carson?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that you? Is that you, baby?
I think he cuts
pulls the Scooby-Doo mask off.
He cuts the fumbles in half just by turning around and handing the ball to Saquon.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully the play
when you don't have
calls
to be your team's leading rusher, you're not going to put the ball on the ground as much.
No, and that's the thing, right? We're talking about Kellen Moore coming in here, and it's a huge misconception. Is this guy runs the football? They had the top scoring offense, and within Dallas, with a team that actually ran the football. It wasn't like the greatest show on turf throwing the ball all over the place. They utilized everything. They utilized the receivers. They utilized the tight end. They utilized the running back. And I think that's why they went so heavy and said, let's plug them all in. Let's lock and load. Let's move forward. And let's give Kellen Moore all the toys and Jalen Hurts all the toys to be able to succeed. And I think it also protects your quarterback because of the fact that they are going to run the ball, because of the fact that he can catch the ball out of the backfield. In fact, they can't lock in on him like they used to be able to. And I really like DeAndre Swift, but he is not Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, healthy, is arguably, obviously there's CMC, but is arguably one of the toughest running backs on the field and one of the most specially talented ones. And I think that's going to pay off a huge dividend for Jalen this year.
You ain't putting down CMC if you say that guy's in the same tier. That guy's in the same class because that's what he is. When he's healthy, you can say the same thing about CMC early on in his career. Like if he's not healthy, he wasn't as good.
Right? This could be that opportunity for him, Tom. Right?
Because he needed some other guys around him to sort of keep him healthy. When you talk about Christian McCaffrey too,
and this could be that situation. You're right, because he's never had an offensive line, never had an offensive line, never had a quarterback. They have stunk. And the fact that he's coming here behind arguably one of the top 5 offensive lines, as well as, an absolutely stacked roster skill position wise. Both guys. And you're right. This could be that, like, coming out like, hey, Christian McCaffrey, you're not the only one standing at the top of the pyramid. Shove them over, and there's going to be 2 of them fighting for that top tier.
Especially when you have wide receivers like this, they even take more pressure off of it. It's not just like, oh, you got a really good quarterback and a good offensive line, and here you got Saquon Barkley. Like, you're talking about 2, maybe arguably the best overall player, skill position player in football, and AJ Brown. I don't know if there's many more guys, skill position guys that are better than him. You know what I mean? You got to tell me who they are. There's a lot of great ones out there, but you got to tell me a bigger specimen. And then Devontae Smith is just a number one that not enough people know about. In a weird way because of AJ Brown, right? That's how good AJ Brown is. Where you forget, oh, I got another number 1 sitting right next to him. So it's a great problem to have that they have, and again, there's less pressure on Jalen, but there's more pressure on Jalen to finish that off a little bit, right? There's more pressure. He's got to take his game to a next level, and anybody says he doesn't have to, I find that weird because if he does, we're winning Super Bowls. Right? If he doesn't, then we're underachieving. That's going to work. You're not going to win a Super Bowl without Jalen Hurts being at an all-pro level. You're just not. Look around the league. Super Bowls win championships. Hey, Pat. Hey, Tom. You know what I mean? Hey, guys. I know you guys. So he's got to play at that level.
How crazy is it, though, that we're losing arguably a top 10 to top 5 center of all time, and our offensive line is still stacked?
It is. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that it's that good because you almost forget that we're losing them sometimes, right, Mike? Right. You're almost like, oh, I forgot we don't have him. I see him all over, but I forgot he's not with me. He's not me anymore.
He's at the complex every day. You kind of forget that he did that whole retirement thing.
I was going to say, are we really losing him? Are we?
But
to that point, right, we've been so spoiled with offensive lines, right, that we're now sitting there like we're deep diving, ghosting closets for Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen, right? We're like, oh, can these guys cut it? Are these guys good enough? When every other team in just about the NFL would take that 5 alone, we're sitting there dissecting whether we leave Jurgens at guard and Hennessy's your starter at center because Tyler Steen can't play all of a sudden, right? You know what I mean? Like, and then the 2 guards that we drafted are automatically better than the guys that we already haven't. I'm not saying they're not, but it's just so funny how spoiled we've been with offensive lines in the Stoutland era that we're sitting here questioning what's going on this offseason, all because you're right, Mike. Jason Kelce left so far.
Jeff Stoutland University, where hungry dogs run faster. That says it all right there.
And listen, the other thing too is, Jason Kelce handpicked his successor, and he had time to sit behind him under his tutelage. So, it almost seems just like a seamless transition. And this Howie, the one thing he does always done well is he picks up guys for the line, whether it's through free agency or draft. Dude just knows how to build a line for whatever their offensive or defensive schemes are. You know, they've changed over the years, and every year it seems like they're a top 5 on both sides, which is, again, Tom, we said it for how many years? The game you win or lose the game in the trenches. And that's one reason why this team continues overall to have success over the last, almost 25 years.
Yeah, and guys
and when
like
we've
Lane
struggled
Johnson.
as a team, where has been our deficiencies? Our
Offense
offense and
defensive
defensive
line.
lines.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Look at the end of our last year. Right? Our defensive line wasn't getting any push. And then you go back to 2016, Carson's rookie year, and then any other time since then, when Lane Johnson's out of the lineup for an extended period of time, we are not good.
No. And I was going to bring up Lane's name, right? I mean, we're spoiled because of Lane and what he's been able to do here for a long period of time. And Jason, there's been a lot of guys around them that haven't been, great either, but they've masked it. Like those two guys that masked other issues or deficiencies through their years because of how talented they are, right? Not saying there hasn't been really good offensive lines. I'm just saying, in the few years that there might not have been up to par, those guys still made us a good offensive line, right? 100%. That's how important they both are. I don't know if Jurgens ever going to be Jason Kelsey. I'm not, that's not what he has to be. Cam Jurgens just has to be a damn good center in this league. That's it. I don't need you to be. You put a gold jacket on, good for you, Cam. But I just need you to be a damn good one, right? I need you to go to win a couple All Pros, right? Whatever about Pro Bowls, but be an All Pro a few times, just be really good. It's really good. So I mean, and he's he gets a great teacher for that, and it's nice that he's not had to do it. Come in on the fly either, right? He's had a full year. I think that's important. SAM, I don't care if me or you are catching passes at the third option. I could care less. I'm not the least bit worried about what my third option is, right? I'm just not. I don't know how I am. I got two guys that are always open. One guy's Twitter handle name's that, and the other guy is literally always open too. I don't know what. Who gives a shit? You can run me, you, Mike. Any of us. They're just there.
In fairness, though, a Devontae Parker or John Ross or any of these other guys, I mean, they're talented guys. They don't have to be number ones. John Ross, I don't think he was ever expected to be a 1, but he doesn't have to be a number 2. You have two of the best wide receivers. You have arguably the best wide receiving tandem in the game in front of you. All you got to do is where they ain't, run there. Catch the football and run where they ain't, and you'll probably find yourself in an open spot.
That would be a great show to have too, Chrome. You're talking about the wide receiver tandems.
Oh my goodness!
Because I mean, there's some damn good ones, and obviously Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are right up there.
Yeah.
But I mean, just off the top of my head, I think Cheetah and Jalen Waddle in Miami. And maybe Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua in LA. And other than that, there's not another duo that just pops into my head the way AJ Brown and Devontae Smith does. I mean, complete other show, but obviously you're looking at a top 3 wide receiver duo for sure.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, you could make an argument about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, too.
I think that's fair. I don't know that I'd put them.
I wouldn't put them above AJ or Devontae.
They're in the discussion.
Yeah, they would be in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah, they'd be in the top 5 or 6. Yeah.
I think at worst, AJ and Devontae are 2. I wouldn't put Puka. I got to see it year 2 for Puka.
That's fair.
And Kupp has to stay healthy because you just don't know what you're going to get with him, right? The one thing about AJ Brown and the one thing about Devontae Smith you've seen is their best ability is their availability. They're almost always on the field and they produce, right? And Miami, I mean, that's a special one when you look at Waddle and when you look at Cheetah. But at the same time, I don't know though. As special as Tyreek Hill is, like we were able to kind of lay the blueprint out last year for other teams on how to contain that a little bit.
No, we put that
Nobody
blueprint
can
out there, and
contain
nobody else did it though.
Right. Well, there was like a week or two in there, but again, to your point, that's fair. You know what you have to do with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and they still make plays. Devontae Smith has double coverage on. How many times have we seen him down the field with double coverage, and he makes an unbelievable catch falling down, like just out jumps everybody. And A.J.'s just he's a freak. He's Theo 2.0. He could catch the ball with 5 guys around him and push him for another 5 or 6 yards. Like that. That's just special talent, and they stay on the field.
Yeah, â€"â€" I mean, no, I listen. It's nice to have a third option, but those third options that you're talking about look better because of the options 1 and 2 anyway. So that's usually how that works, in my opinion. But I get what you're saying. But they have like a bunch of different guys for that 3 spot. So they have a ton of options. That's why I'm not even more not worried about it.
Random Chrome knowledge: Ricky Pro, his son was on American Idol this year.
Thank
God. There's a team that wins
Thank
the
God
Super
you're on the
Bowl.
show. Thank God you're on the show to tell us that.
With Todd
Been a while
Payton
since I
and
dropped
Vince
one.
Vaughn.
He made it to the top 24.
Nice competitor.
Oh, I love this question. This question actually irks me because I love football and it runs America. It's America's sport probably nowadays. The thing that kind of ticks me off though about some football fans, even here sometimes too, fans kind of forget what team they're rooting for, and then they just become like they glaze the quarterback. We'll bring this back up. They glaze the quarterback. And it's glaze talk. Like it's no longer about the team you root for. It's all about how can I defend my quarterback. I mean, I'll be the first to, critique Hurts all day long if he's not performing up to par. I did the same thing with Wentz. I'll do the same thing with him, and I'll keep doing it, especially when you have a talented roster like this. So I completely agree with this comment for sure.
And I don't know about you guys. Like I believe in accountability, even in your personal life. So like if there's something going on or a family member and there needs to be a conversation of like, hey, listen, like you need to fix this or there needs to be an accountability for this. It's my job to say that and not let them go out and make a smacked ass out of themselves or do something that could be detrimental to themselves or anyone else. Same thing here. Why can't we want to see him succeed? And because of that, have an accountability that we hold against him. That's I never understood that. I'm a Cardinals fan baseball. I hate their fans because they all drink the Kool-Aid. Like, they don't hold any accountability for anybody. The Cardinal way, it's all bullshit. And that's one thing that's annoying about being a fan of them. It is okay to hold somebody accountable.
And we're also talking about a guy we saw in the Super Bowl look like, albeit he lost, he was the best player on the field that day. So if I'm not seeing that guy who I saw that one day in the biggest game on the biggest stage, I have every right to critique him because I saw it.
Well, it's not even that game, though, Luke. Like, that was pretty much who he was all season.
Yeah, right. Totally.
And, like, I don't even know if I need him to be quite that level.
Not anymore.
We definitely can't have the level that we had last year.
No, but even if you look at Jalen, like, big picture. I mean, this is a guy that this fan base questioned why he was drafted so high. He took the starting job from a quarterback that had just signed a massive extension. And then, 2 years later, to your point, Chrome and Luke, he's in the Super Bowl. And he was the best player in that Super Bowl. So
in a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes on the field.
Yeah. Right. So you come from, you look at the journey for him of how it started with his team to what his peak was. That can't be the pinnacle. It can't be that he was the best player on the field in a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes and his team lost. And that was year 3 for him. So that's why everyone talks about the clock and the pressure on Hurts, because he set the bar so high in year 3 that if that's the best he ever gets, that's a problem for this football team.
No, and look at Dallas, right? There should have been a clock put on Dak a while ago. And I like Dak. I think Dak's a good quarterback. But again, there's a level of accountability. He came out of the gates guns blazing year one. He had one of the best rookie year as a quarterback that we've seen in the last 25 or 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of, there's been some years that were better than others. But when it came down to the big moments in the big games, and it came down to some of these divisional games, big turnovers, poor decision-making, not realizing you got to clock a football, like that's what you end up getting is you get a guy who's going to win you some games in the regular season, maybe win you a lot of games in the regular season, but doesn't have it in the big moments and turns the football over. And, like, that's what we don't want here. Like, no offense to Dak. I'm not a Dak hater, but it took Dallas a really long time to really look at him and hold some accountability. And now they decided his second contract year to finally hold some accountability for him. It's crazy to me.
No, it is.
You look back at when J.O. was drafted, right? And whether we had issues with it or not, what did we all go back to, right? The type of kid he is, the type of guy he is, his work ethic, his leadership, right? I'm banking on that, right? You know what I mean? Coming into this year, that's what I'm basing, I don't want to say hopes, right? But it is hope as fans, right? That's what I'm basing my hopes around, is that this kid looks in the mirror because throughout his career, he's done that, right? He's shown that throughout his career, he's done that, right? He gets benched, he sticks around, plays the good teammate card, then comes back and wins a game, then goes to another place and balls out himself again after taking that, right? So I'm hoping that he's looking in that mirror and he's saying that I need to be better, because I'm sure he admits that he was better. And I need to do things differently going into this year because I might have been exposed a little bit. But now it's on me to remake myself and to bring this team back to the level we were there, because to everyone's point, we were there. Right? He was there, we were there, and now he's going to bring us back. And that's what we got to look at. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's a great movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds great. It's a great movie coming up, hopefully. But listen, we only have what we saw last, and we saw last was terrible football. What we saw last was bad decision making. And listen, sports are all about your response, and maybe a little bit part of that had to do with a lot of money, right? And how do you handle that? You might be the best kid in the world, right? You might have your head on your shoulder like nobody's business, right? But a lot of expectations come with that now, right? And how do you handle that? How do you navigate that? I'll give him maybe a little mulligan or a little part of it to that. Maybe we don't know that to be true. I have question marks now about some of the leadership stuff that came from this organization. And if anybody that doesn't question that a little bit, then I think you're just defending the quarterback. Then it's just because that's your guy. That's real smoke coming out of that building. That wasn't just somebody made that up, right? There's been question marks, hence why he's in the building a lot. Hence why he's showing up to a presser, right? He's trying to do those little things for the image of it, okay? But you can lead in a bunch of different ways, so there's not a certain way to lead, right? But obviously some things were going on there, and maybe he didn't handle things right. But he has a year to respond to that, of course, right? We can crush him at the end of last year, and I absolutely did. I held him to a standard, right? But this year is a big year. Let's not be mistaken here, because if this is any type of egg, we're in trouble, or dud, we're in trouble. So we got to hope that the Jalen we saw 2 years ago, that's who he is. And I want to believe that's who he is, right? Because we saw it. But now can you go do it again at the highest level in sports? Well, guess what? Your GM did you a lot of favors, baby. Your GM said, I'm not going to look back on this and say, I didn't give you that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Tommy, you're not going to have to wait long, though. And Greg, you and Chrome, you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. We're going to find out a lot about this football team in week 4. Because, Tom, you said it's what's the last thing we saw? The last thing we saw was this team walking off the field in Tampa, basically with their tails between their legs. Yep. They go back down to Tampa in week 4, and they decide to whip it out and lay it on the ground and absolutely, stomp a mud hole in the Buccaneers. and basically, clean up the mess that they left at the end of last season, that's going to tell me a lot about this football team. If they go into Tampa Bay week 4 this year and they lay an egg, I'm going to be a little concerned.
So you're saying I should stay away.
Greg's got his Orlando internet tonight. All night. He brought his Orlando internet to the party. We thank you for that.
Disneyland Wi-Fi, huh?
Yeah, I think at some points he's been fired up, and he's just been frozen. He's been fired up, but just still shot. Still shot.
I hate to be that guy, but I'm looking at DraftKings right now. We might as well talk about it. I mean, they're at a 10.5 at plus money. I do not like that. That is, I do not like the signs off of that.
You're talking win total?
Yeah. While we're on schedule release talk,
Plus
I do
money's
not
10.5.
like that. Yeah, don't like that.
Wait, what is it again?
Hammered.
It's 10.5
it.
at plus money. You can get it at plus. I gotta go back and see it, but it's plus money.
That's interesting because
I'm
they're
absolutely hammering that.
That number
they're
seems
like
really.
they're middle of the pack this year on strength of schedule. I'm pretty sure that the combined like win percentage of their opponents this year was either just like a tick below or a tick above 500, and they're like almost dead smack in the middle of the pack. So that Luke, that's an interesting total right there.
San Francisco's at 11.5. Kansas City's at 11.5. Baltimore's 11.5. Detroit's 10.5. Green Bay's 10.5.
So there's nobody higher than 11.5.
No, I mean we can.
Dallas.
I wonder where Dallas is on here.
Because they don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's why. So yeah, you pound that 10.5 right now.
I mean, to me, the only telling thing is where's everyone else in the division? So the Giants are at 6.5. I see that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find Dallas on. Dallas is also at 10.5 for a little bit better odds than us. But I also think that's kind of where the money goes, and they see a lot of money, so I'm not all that worried about that.
No. That's a pound the over there.
Yeah.
No question about it. And I said I got them at 13 wins and go to bed. I mean, what do you guys got? You guys aren't up there?
I'll go 12. I'll go with 12.
Yeah,
There's only
if
one
I
to
was
drop.
12.
Yeah.
Chrome, go ahead.
I'll ride the unicorn with you, Tommy. I'm at 13.
Yeah, I mean that's 4 losses. I mean, it's not like the old days, 13-3. That's really a 12-win team. I'm telling you, they're a 12-win team. By saying 13 nowadays with the extra game, right? That's all we're doing. They still got 4 losses.
Yeah. I'm gonna ride.
So I got them at 11, but I do have some logic behind it.
Okay.
So I think they dropped Brazil.
Me too, yeah.
Oh, here we go. We're gonna be panicking in the streets of Brazil.
Oh yeah,
now.
it's gonna be a massacre. It will be. It'll absolutely be panic in the streets, and that game's on a Friday night, so you'll have to hear about it all weekend.
Oh,
I can see everybody showing up to the airport to welcome them back with pitchforks.
Well,
But
10
yeah,
days.
I
Well,
got
10
them
days of crushing
dropping
them.
Brazil. I got them dropping one of the 2 on the road between either New Orleans or Tampa. And based on what we just talked about, it better not be Tampa. I actually have them dropping Baltimore. I'm sorry, not Baltimore, Cincinnati. They'll split with Dallas. Then they're going to drop one of the games on the road, either Baltimore or the Rams. And then their last loss for me is what I expect to be a meaningless Week 18 game at home against the Giants. So I have them basically going into Week 18 at 11-5, pretty much in control of their destiny, and they just dropped that meaningless game. So that's where I'm at.
I mean, let's think about it. If the line's at 10.5 and they fell off like they did last year, and they don't go over, if they don't go over, oh my God! I mean, it might be fire sale season. It might be fire sale season.
Not one of us went 10, so we're all on the over on that.
I'm just saying, with all the improvements that they made this offseason, if they don't go over what they did last season, trouble.
Yeah, as a over 11.5 ticket holder for the Eagles last season, I feel you on last season those numbers.
You're such a
Yeah.
degenerate.
Mr. Rudy Poo,
Well-
everybody gets fired if they're 9-8.
Oh yes, totally.
Oh, people get fired on the
1,000%.
way to 9-8.
Yeah. On the way to 9-8.
Howie doesn't make another move, right? Everybody's fired.
Yep.
We might as well up that GoFundMe so that we could buy the Sixers and the Eagles.
Hey, Greg, though, that's actually a great question. If they do go 9-8, does Howie come back?
I don't see how he can, to be honest with you.
He'll come back.
I mean, see, I don't know. Like,
How?
I'm kind of with Luke. I feel like if God forbid this team goes 9-8, I think Howie gets a chance to clear house and start all over again.
Yes.
Yep.
Before Jeffrey says that it's Howie's time to go.
I mean, he built two. I mean, I get it, 9-8, and we'll probably live in a different world. But he built two championship teams, like completely built down the whole thing, rebuilt it back up, built another championship team. Had a coach have an historic downfall that has never been seen before, and we're sitting up here and saying we're probably up there with the most talented team in the entire league. At that point, all eyeballs go to the coach and or the quarterback.
Yeah, and to Luke's point, I think that's something we have to take into account. There's nobody that's sitting back saying, "Oh, this was a questionable move," or "That was a questionable move." Like all the free agent signings, all of the draft picks that they made, whether it's locally or consensus nationally, everybody's praising it. So if it doesn't work out, I think it falls on the coaching staff. That's where they clear house. And to Luke's other point, I think your best bet to knock it down and rebuild it is Howie. He's done it numerous times, and I think he could do it again. I think
the coach.
What's
you
that?
hired the coach. Well, you hired the coach.
He went to a Super Bowl.
Hold the hell on here for a second. Hold on. This same coach who just came off one of the biggest collapses in sports history, you brought back. Don't tell me what he did in the past. I'm talking about right now, what we just watched. So nobody sit here and tell me that his job is completely safe. And I'm yelling this so Jeffrey Lurie hears me. All right, I don't care what he did. That he built stuff back up. He brought him back. He thought bringing assistants in with a higher pedigree behind them was going to help his head coach. He brought them to back his head coach up. That's what he did. He went and put pieces around.
Do we know that was him? How do we know it's not the owner who did that?
What? The owner did what?
That said, I don't want to. I'm not paying another coach to figure it out. How do we not know that? I mean, how do we not know that? We don't know that at all.
When have you ever known Jeffrey Lurie to be afraid of spending money on a head coach?
Jeffrey Lurie sits in on all these interviews. He knows what they're bringing in. He signs off on it at the end of the day.
Yes, totally. He deserves just as much blame.
Who's got nothing to prove, Bill? Howie? Like I'm not running Howie out of town by this at all. But
I don't think Howie will ever get fired either. But he might be the Brian Cashman of the NFL.
That's fine. Maybe he never gets fired. But I'm saying that we can't just not look at him. We can't just say that he's not a big part of this. Like if you're coming off the collapse you did, you went and built up a better roster. You went up and built up your coaching staff. But the head coach then becomes the scapegoat, and that's fine because maybe he can't coach, right? But you brought him back after a collapse. You had your out. Forget the Super Bowl. You had your out because of what your team just did. Guys get fired for a lot less. Guys have got fired for a lot less. And I'm not out on Nick. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, guys got fired for a lot less. So
right, but that's not just a Howie decision to bring him back. That's a Jeffrey Lurie and Howie.
I don't give a shit if it's a Jeffrey Lurie decision. Then Jeffrey Lurie needs to get away from decisions.
Right.
Right. I'm saying that that's your vice president. That's your general manager makes those hires when he's been around this long. But let's not be mistaken. These are Howie Roseman decisions that are just signed off on by Jeffrey Lurie. But Jeffrey Lurie is not going to really come down and pound the table for a firing of a coach unless he listens to Howie on that, right? He's going to let Howie opinion matter in the room. It does. So I'm just saying, like, come on, let's just not let like Howie get no blame because Jeffrey's gonna be in on meetings and sign off when he's the owner, of course. But good owners trust their football guys.
But nobody said no blame. Of course, he'll get. There's going to be a microscope on him.
No, because
at the end of the day, it's going to fall on the coaching staff. No,
because he'll leak stuff. But I'm not stupid here. Because the leaks are going to come in about Jalen. They'll come out, or they'll come out about Sirianni. There'll be all these leaks that come out that give him a free pass. That's all my point is I know what you guys are saying. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at Jeffrey Lurie because we can't do that then. Like, we got to hold everybody accountable. Then let's hold the guy who puts the whole thing together accountable because he's the architect of it.
Let's go 9-8 first.
Howie said, I don't need no burner account.
I feel like I'm in December and we're panicking and we get all sorts of
We're already panicking.
I'm yelling like that right now. I got a root canal yesterday. I shouldn't be yelling like that.
Yes.
But in all seriousness, so I think, Tom, you make a valid point. But I am kind of siding with the rest of the room on that. Like, if this does go to hell in a handbasket this year, it's not going to be Howie. But if Sirianni gets fired, there's a conversation where Jeffrey pulls Howie into the office and says, look, you're on your third coach now. You fired Doug. Now you fired Nick. Next time, it's not going to be just the coach. It's going to be you too.
As it should.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying I think he gets fired because I don't think he gets fired. You know what I mean? We know how this works here, but I would look right at him as if I'm trying to fix the problem. Right? It's great that you've gone to 2 Super Bowls. That's awesome. That's not easy to do. But after each Super Bowl, your teams have gotten worse quickly. That's a problem.
Right. Totally.
No doubt.
No, maybe this year we're back. And 9-8 doesn't matter, and hopefully it doesn't.
See, we can't even have nice things around here. Well, we got a good football team here, and the minute somebody says 9-8, we all get set off.
We got Howie on the hot seat. We got Sirianni on a hot seat. We got the head coach or the coordinators on hot seats. Microscope on Howie already. We're already telling Jeffrey Lurie to listen up, and we're talking with elevated voices. This is November and December conversation, boys.
No, thanks, Mr. Rudy Pill. Like
we are built different down here or up there.
All right, boys. Well, the Phils are red hot, and
they are.
Since the last time we talked, I feel like they're even hotter. With the guys they're missing, and they're just winning baseball games. It's been fun to watch, and Ranger Suarez might be the best pitcher in baseball.
And he had his worst outing today.
Yeah, he still might be the best pitcher in baseball.
He had his worst outing, and I think he already down.
Yeah,
the 2 runs he gave up were unearned.
I was going to say, he didn't give up anything earned today.
Yeah, his run average went down. That is correct. It went down.
But then look what happens, though. Your pitcher goes out, he struggles. The offense actually picks him up. That's something you didn't always see last year early on.
No, you didn't see anything early on last year. Mr. Rudy Poo, appreciate the super chat. Jalen has no excuses anymore. You have the 2024 Celtics roster, and he has a mid-schedule.
I like that comparison.
Get it done or get out of here.
The facts, Mr. Rupu.
I like that comparison.
Appreciate you, Rudy Poo.
I think the coach liability is a great comparison with that too.
That's fair.
Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah.
I mean, like nobody knew who the hell Joe Mazzulla was before that job, and same with Nick Sirianni. So I mean, that's what happens a lot of times with coaches, but nobody knew. So that's a great analogy. Listen, I would. I can't believe I'm having this conversation right now, but like if Jalen Hurts stinks this year for some reason, right? He's dealt immediately.
Yep.
It's not even up for debate. And then we're trading everything up and we're moving up.
Man, we just went right from 2024 off-season moves from 23 to 24. We're already in the 2025 off-season.
Is Michael Penix Jr. available?
We did a schedule release, and somehow we managed to get the next year's schedule release again.
we're start the draft.
We're at 9 and 8, and we're drafting at like number 11. And
We're drafting a quarterback.
Good Lord.
What's up, Derek? Okay, well now we'll go back to Phillies.
You think the Chargers will trade what's his face by that point?
Herbert.
Justin
Oh
Herbert.
yeah, get those rumors started. I see that already. I like that call out.
Harbaugh. Can we get both of them? Harbaugh and him.
Listen, not trying to crown Nick Sirianni because I'm not a big fan, but nobody knew who Andy Reid was at one point too, and now the guy's basically a lock for the Hall of Fame.
It's true.
Yeah, he's all right.
Well, sports. Eric Spoelstra was a video guy.
Yep.
Guy's a Hall of Famer.
Nick Nurse was a nobody too.
Oh yeah, I thought I prefaced that right or said that like we don't know most guys you don't know. Yeah,
Right. Guys come out talking about water and plants, and maybe he gets to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, Jesus God.
Do you think that quote gets on his bust if he makes it to the Hall?
Oh yeah, because everybody's gonna talk about how much he watered it. A lot of watering going on.
A lot of glazing.
How about them Phils?
Yeah, I'm just looking up Ranger numbers. I mean, this pitching staff has been the best in baseball.
It wasn't the greatest conditions, obviously, for him tonight, but he wasn't sharp. But thankfully, we played Mets, right? And they're a dumpster fire.
How are they still considering this 1 4-game series, though? I thought it was. I mean, I know it's a home and home, but I thought it was like a 2-game series in New York and a 2-game series in Philly. The announcers on there talking tonight like it's a 4-game set, and winning tonight actually won them the series. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
No, it's a weird because they did that because of the London, right? Then we talk about that.
Yeah, because of the London deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they won the first series a night ago, and now they got a 1-0 lead in this 2-game set at home. But yeah, bats came alive tonight. Obviously, Harper swung it well. Shore was back in the lineup. JT back in the lineup. That's positives, right? Weren't trying to be without them for a long period of time. Bomer continues to hit. Stott had his worst night, but he's been playing really good. And and Mundo. So this lineup's been picking it up. They've been picking it up, and when they scored over 4 runs, they're almost unbeatable, which is crazy.
And I'm glad we're obviously talking about this in a winning effort, right? But base running once again continues to be a huge concern.
Mm-hmm.
And Yohan Rojas dropped 2 more balls today.
He was a disaster in center field tonight.
One of them being absolutely routine. The other one, I'll give you a pass if you catch the first one. And like I said, we're winning. It's the Mets, but this can't continue. Either of those issues can't continue once the competition gets better and the games we get deeper into season. I mean, JT Realmuto running through a stop sign is insane to me when you're talking with no outs. And then lo and behold, what happens next? Because it's going to happen. You hit a sac fly ball that would have scored him anyway, and then sets you up with a runner at third base with 1 out instead of 2 outs. Again, we're winning, so it's okay. It glosses over it, but these are things that can't continue to happen. And if Rojas is going to continue to drop fly balls, then Brandon Marsh finally has to become an everyday player, and we got to rotate people in left field then, because we can't have that.
The way Pache's been swinging it a little bit, I just put Marsh in left, put Pache in center, and let Rojas watch until he remembers how to catch a fly ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you need to run him out there every day if he's not playing at an elite level defensively. Right.
Rojas then I think becomes a maybe 2-start a week guy. And you sit Marsh one day, you sit Pache one day until he figures it out.
It's just crazy though with Rojas that it's, the routine stuff that he misses, it's because of a lack of concentration. But the ones that are a little more difficult, it's actually because, and I never thought I would hear myself say this about a Major League Baseball player, he doesn't realize how fast he is.
Yeah.
He's literally overrunning fly balls.
Yeah, 3 of the last 4 or 5 that he's dropped because he overran it, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The
Like
one today, I don't even think he needed to dive for. Because he got there so quick, he could have just ran right through it.
Right. Yeah, he has no idea how fast he is and whether or not he needs to dive for the ball. Yeah, it's insane to me.
Yeah, it's almost like he's got to slow down, right? Right. He's got like you don't even want to say that for an outfielder. Hey, buddy, you know what I mean? Gonna need you to just
tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, can you slow down? Like what? Like you're just overrunning everything.
Yeah, but it almost makes you feel like
I'll be right back. I gotta pee.
Yeah. It almost makes you feel like if that's how his brain works, right? Because he has struggles at the plate. Like if he's like a guy whose mind just runs a mile a minute and has a hard time kind of harnessing in and focusing in to be able to make those adjustments defensively. And is that maybe part of his personality too that affects him at the plate? That his mind is just all over the place and he's not zeroed in and able to concentrate on, all right, this is what they threw, this is what this guy throws, this is what we might be seeing next, and locking it.
I think it's
definitely got to be. Yeah, it's definitely got to be something about mindset, right, and what goes through his head. Because I've never, and maybe never is probably a wrong exaggeration, but I've never seen a guy who can't hit watch so many cock shots down the middle of the plate go by.
It's crazy.
You see straight, you should be hacking. Right? You see straight, that should be the ones that I couldn't hit curveball. Right? That's why I had a limited college career. I couldn't hit a curveball. But I could at least hit a fastball a little bit. Right?
Yeah, even Pedro Serrano could hit the heater down the middle.
But you got to be able to hit the fastball, and he's watching them. He's watching them. That's the crazy.
And that's what I'm saying, Greg.
Yeah.
You know, we see what he's doing defensively, right? And he's overjudging balls, and he's constantly going 0 to 100, right, like a gazelle out in the outfield. Is that a part of his personality? Where at the plate, his mind's going, 100 miles per hour, and he's overthinking everything.
It could be.
And Chrome, to that point, is it a situation where one's leading to the other?
Yeah,
Greg, like you're saying that, for as much as he's working, he's still struggling offensively. And he's struggling offensively because, in a sense, the game's too fast for him. The heater is too fast for him. He's watching it go by. He's trying to sit on the slow stuff, and he's not hitting it. So when he goes to the outfield, the offensive struggles are in his head. And what's he doing in the outfield? He's trying to speed up. When in reality, he needs to slow down and be under control. And if he could slow down and be under control when he goes to the plate, he might actually hit the fastball a little more.
And in my opinion too, the margin for error is very minimal with him. I understand he's young and you don't want to get into his head. I don't know how Brandon Marsh isn't an everyday player already. What a tremendous addition he was. Talk about an under the radar pickup a couple of years ago that has really paid some dividends and has become a really good player. I don't know, he's not an everyday player already. And I know you guys talked about this, I believe, on Sunday as well. And I was right along with you guys. They have to find a way to get him in the lineup every day. I know he doesn't. I know he struggles sometimes with left-handed pitching. But I agree with what Tom said the other day. Let him get in and let him see more pitches from left-handers. Maybe he works that out, and he's a better hitter against both sides of the play. Both ends or both arms. But
yeah, he's definitely not going to get better never playing.
Yeah,
never seeing him. Right.
Yeah. They need to find more opportunities for him to play a little bit more against left-handers because he's a tremendous player for them.
And Chrome, it's a great point. I mean, we actually talked, I think, last week when you were out that, Marsh has to be a 5 or 6 day a week guy. But it's one of those situations right now where they started giving Pache some at-bats because they wound up facing this string of lefties where I think it was 5 lefties in 7 games or something like that. Yeah. And Pache started to swing it a little bit. So Thompson's looking at that and saying, okay, well, I may not get offense out of Pache for the entire season, but while he's swinging it a little bit, I'm going to ride that hot hand. And as a result, it's Marsh that's found himself on the bench, and we can't have that. So they're kind of in a catch-22, at least right now with this weird string of left-handers that they're facing.
I mean, I can't imagine that with what Marsh does against left-handers is much worse than what Rojas brings you offensively overall.
Right. That's fair. That's very fair.
Like, that's my thing, right? We're not talking about a huge dip where, Rojas is hitting 220 and Martz is hitting 125 against lefties. Like, they're at worst, they're probably going to hit close to the same batting average. Maybe 10 points off here or there. And at that point, I'd rather have the guy who plays every day and give him more reps. Like, if Pache's earning it, and this is where I hate today's ball game. This is where I hate baseball today. Like, everything is so overthought, right? Analytics is a huge thing, and there's a massive place in the game for it. But the idea of ride the hot hitter, screw the matchups, forget the history, ride the hot hitter, ride the guy who's seeing the baseball like a beach ball. But we're going to go and we're going to micromanage every game. We're going to look at the matchups. We're going to see what his history was over the last 3 or 4 games. We're going to do this and that. And the guy who should be playing every day is not. Like, if Rojas isn't getting it done and Pache is, Rojas needs to sit his ass on the bench. He could be a 7th, 8th inning, 9th inning defensive replacement then. And that's what I hate about today's baseball. It's so overthought. In our day, guys, when we were younger, guess what? I watched them sit Scott Rowland in the NLCS and play Scott Spezio, Tony La Russa. You play the hot hitter. And guess what? He won them 2 games. And then they went back to Rowland. That's what you do. And they don't do that anymore.
No, they don't. They don't. They definitely don't. And even with Rojas at this point, he's young enough. He may need 2 weeks in AAA. Right? He might need to be humbled a little bit.
Hey, if you send Jose Abreu down to AAA, why can't we send Rojas down there?
Go 2 weeks down to AAA, back to that 9. Last year playoffs, he was exceptional defensively. Right? Last year when he came up and all of this throughout the postseason, he was great in the field. You didn't have a question about it. But then this year, now he's starting all those most of those catches, like you said, you could give pass to, right? Because he's running a long distance. He overran it, right? So you're like, all right, that's a little youth. But the one that started off the game today was as easy of a pop fly as you could get. And he dropped it. And so that's where you just got to be like, all right, bite the bullet. You have guys, right? We have Marsh. You have Pache right now. You have Crawford in the wings, right? You got a whole bunch of other, whether they're good or not, whatever. You have a bunch of other guys down in the minors too that if for whatever reason he doesn't transition or he doesn't take that quote unquote demotion, if that's what happens, you got other guys. You know what I mean? It's not like he's a 300 hitter already. So we already know there's some sort of potential flaw in the game. Right. So give him 2 weeks in the minors and see what we can do. Cause we need, if he's going to be a part of this team and he's going to play every day, we need him at least to catch the baseball.
He needs
Greg, it's so crazy.
He needs to hit a little bit more too, Greg. He has to hit a little
bit.
But
I'll take 220 if you're not dropping anything out in the outfield.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's fair.
Like, look at Kyle Schwarber, right? Kyle Schwarber barely batted 200 when he's playing left field, but he hit 45 bombs.
Right.
So if you're calling cards defense and you can't hit 220, then you might need a new calling card.
Schwarber's is always a little deceptive. Just I know I'm getting into the specifics now, but the thing about Schwarber is his on base percentage is tremendous though.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what makes him the most unusual.
But he's a one-sided player. My point is he's a one-sided player.
For sure. Yeah, no, I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
So if Rojas is going to be that one-sided player on the defensive side, then he needs to not drop routine fly balls.
Sure.
Now, Greg, it's kind of crazy that you went there, though, because I was actually thinking while I was watching that game tonight, when he dropped the second one, I was thinking that somebody needed to call him into the office tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Like they need to have the conversation with him that if you're not going to catch routine fly balls, you're going to find yourself back in AAA working on it again. Because
remind him that nothing's guaranteed, Mike.
Right. I mean, it's a 30 win baseball team right now. 31 wins tonight. Like they don't need to have this guy up there to win baseball games because he's not really contributing a whole hell of a lot. So, if they need to send him down and get him right, let's do it.
I mean, there's so many examples throughout, obviously, not only just this year, but in past years of Major League, right, of guys being sent down, working on things and coming back better for it, right? Like, I mean, whether he comes back better for it, but you just sent a 8-year-old Jose Abreu down, right? Or however old that guy is. What did we do 2 years ago with Jose Alvarado before he came lights out?
Yep.
Right? Sent him down for 2 weeks, worked on some things, left a little of the pressure of the big lights, right? And the pressure of the big games, and you're able to work on things. I'm not giving up on the kid, but if you can't do it, then we need to make a change. And again, I'm glad we're winning despite of it because it's easier to have those conversations. But good Lord, this can't continue once our schedule flips a little bit.
Yeah, just make the routine plays.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he should be a Gold Glove caliber center fielder, right? So you're banking on that, and that's why you're willing to deal with the bat maybe being a little bit behind, right? Hypothetically. But if you're not doing anything at an elite level, you don't stay in this league long. That's just simple. You better do something at a high level. I'm not even saying elite. You better do something at a high level that hang your hat on and be your calling card to keep you in the big leagues. That's how it works. And then for young guys, then you got to go down and you got to figure some stuff out, right? Like the Greg's point, go figure it out when it's not a pressure situation. It shouldn't make you judge fly balls better though, right? You're going on the minors ain't going to help you judge on a fly ball. If you're overrunning stuff, I mean, now he's going to go run through walls down there. You're going to go overrun the whole world. I don't know how that changes by going to the minors. Definitely, have a less pressure, work on some things during ABs, of course. But yeah.
Sometimes just the humbleness of being sent down and just that reminder that your job is not guaranteed, particularly as a young player, is very beneficial to them, part of their development. Nothing is guaranteed. Everything is earned, particularly when you're on a team that has had 2 National League Championship, back-to-back National League Championship appearances, 1 World Series appearance, and is currently the number 1 team in baseball right now in terms of wins.
That's still scary to hear, about your team in April and in May, right? We're so used to not having that be talked about with our team.
Yeah.
The
First
best
to
team,
30.
first to 30, the first to 31, right? Oh my God, it's your Phillies, right? I mean, it's not used to what you're hearing in this city.
No, and even you look at teams like the Mets that they play, right? Whether the Mets stink or not, they always struggle against them, and they are just beating teams they should be beating, regardless of who it is.
Yeah. It doesn't. Again, like we talked about before, it doesn't matter who they're playing, but they're taking care of those teams, which is even more of a great sign that you're really dominating teams you should dominate. And it's division games, so that doesn't even matter, right? Like when you get into division games, I don't care how good teams are in my division, right? That's where things happen because you play those teams more. So I think it's really super impressive what they've been able to do, and that just like we talked about last week, it leads you into that 98, 100 win type numbers. That it's not a problem. It's not a problem going winning your division and being hot as a freaking pistol all year. Like I'll sign up for that. I know there might be weeks here and there where I might not play good baseball, but we can deal with the base run and mistakes. I mean, Greg, the only thing I have to say about that, the whole league runs the bases bad. So
no, 100%.
Major League Baseball fundamentals are thrown out right out the window. So
absolutely,
as we can see by our center fielder, just like overrunning balls too. So nobody cares about fundamentals.
You're absolutely right there.
Well, different mentality in that clubhouse this year. They're not hoping to win games; they're expecting to win games.
And Tommy, you brought it up earlier, I think, and it's with guys out too, right? Like obviously Trey's out, right? But then this last week we were 3 or 4 games without Schwarber, 3 or 4 games without Real Muto. We had that strange issue with Harper last night, right? And they're still finding ways to win.
Yeah.
These are games that we lost last year. These are games we lost the last 3 years, right? Our guys weren't in there. Yeah, we're done.
Dude, we
that
lose
win
that
2
first
nights
game.
before
Yeah, I was going to say that. We lose that first game in New York. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
100%.
The first game in New York, ain't no way we're winning that.
Game. Even with the Stoddy homer, we have no right winning that game. But you know, you scratch and claw, and your bullpen keeps you in it. You know, don't look now. Sir Anthony's had a couple goose egg appearances here in the last couple weeks. I know it's the Mets, but
Okay,
I mean, what do you have? 5 pitches tonight? 5 pitches tonight? Get through your top of
Yep.
the order?
4 or 5 pitches, something like that.
Yeah,
So
and I think he went through Alonso Lindor and McNeil, I think, or you know what I mean? So those are big-time hitters. I don't care if you have a 5-run lead.
Come down just as fast as they go up.
They sure can.
All right, well,
and all that builds confidence for him.
His last 5 outings, he has not given up an earned run.
There you go.
I'll take that.
So, you know, one of them was the Blue Jays game. You know, he's only walked, not only, but he's walked 3 guys in a little 4 2/3 of an inning. So it's not terrible. I'd like to get that down a little bit more, but it seems like he's locating better than he was previously. Right, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, Tom, though, your point though, that game Monday night, and Greg, you said it. You know, the Stott home run last year. Stott hits a home run. Clemens hits a single. They go pop up, strikeout, and that ball game's over.
Yeah.
Because that's just how it always was. They get the tying run on base, and you're sitting there and you're licking your chops, thinking you're going to come back, tie this game, win the game, something, and it never happened. Now we're used to seeing it happen.
We are. Now we're like, okay, we're for real. We're for real. And I think you said big chip on their shoulder this year.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, you can see it. You can just see it. There's a sense of urgency. And there's a sense of growth by a lot of guys, too. You know, the more guys like Stott and Bohm have played in big games, the more they, you know, air quote, believe in themselves, per se, right?
Sure.
And you're seeing their development. You're seeing those 2 guys get better. Where you don't have a Schwarber, you don't have it's what great teams do. You didn't have a Schwarber, you didn't have a Turner, you didn't have a JT for a minute. Okay, Stott, I'm going to hit the cover off the ball. I got you, right? Nicky's going to start hitting better. Harper's going to get hot, right? I mean, he's had a great month. He's been 364 this month.
Yeah, he's like 3rd in home runs now, 3rd or 4th in NL in home runs right now. You know, after a really slow start for him from his standards, right?
Really slow start. I mean, he's batting, like I said, 364 this month. He has more RBIs. Than anybody in the National League this month. And 13,
no, he did that on 3 swings of the bat. So, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's fun. 13 ribbies and 4 homers over his last 5 games. So definitely been hot. But the point is other guys pick you up. Other guys pick each other up night in, night out. You know, it's almost like, you know, you remember back to that 93 team. Luke can't, but the rest of us can. You know, it's a different guy every night. You look back to 08, right? 08's a different guy every night.
It's funny you bring that up.
Goes through it. Different guys every night. Different guys find a way to pick you up.
When I was doing the show stuff for Sunday, that was almost my poll question, right? Is this offense reminds you of the 2008 and the fact that it's a new guy every night. It's 1 through 9, right? When they're on, it's 1 through 9, even with Rojas in the lineup, right? But even then, Rojas came up, you know, big in Miami, right? With that, or Miami, or hit the home after Casty. Oh, in L.A. or one of those, right? But he's come up big at times. You know what I mean? And like, so it's 1 through 9. Everybody chips in, and it's so funny. You brought that correlation back to 2008. I'm right with you. It's kind of scary how similar this offense is rolling currently.
Yeah, and I can make a case I could, right, that this offense may be a little better, but they both were like really deep. That's the big thing, right? And I'll give that offense the nod because they won something, right? But
True.
I mean, those offenses are both really deep. And this one might be even a little deeper. We forget how deep this lineup is sometimes, even with Rojas at the bottom of it. I mean, it's lengthy. It's lengthy. But yeah,
what's crazy though about that '93 team, I mean, they basically had what I would call 3.5 platoons, and these were full-time platoons.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Milt Thompson and Pete Incaviglia in left, Jim Eisenreich, Wes Chamberlain in right, Mariano Duncan and Mickey Morandini at second, and then Ricky Jordan was getting 2 days a week over at first for the Crocker.
No, you're right. There was a lot of that, which made that team even like different, right?
Yeah, a lot of depth though, like you said. Depth.
Yep, deep teams. You got same kind of things here in your outfield, right? In ways, you got Witt off your bench. You got Sosa who can play. Obviously, you have Marsh who plays, Pache who plays. You just got different guys, and it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch different guys on a nightly basis pick it up. Right. And then the starting staff, we've seen a lot of good ones in our time throughout being a Phillies fan, right? I mean, the way this staff is off to the start they're off to, there might not be a better one when it's said and done. If this kind of crap continues, like Ranger continues, which I don't see why he won't. I think we've been feeling this for a long time when you look at Ranger Suarez. We were just waiting for the health to be there, not the dominance. Well, now he's healthy. And he's healthy. He's saying hello, hey everybody, because he's been like the best pitcher in baseball. And we're not even talking about Zach Wheeler yet. I didn't even get the number one of our staff. We didn't even get to how good Aaron Nola's been. Right? There's been guys who've been really good. Sanchez has been fine. Right? He's had some really good outings. But Spencer was really good when he started, and Walker's been good since he came back. So it's like, okay, we're
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I think that's a great point, Tom. Too, right? Every time we're on here and we're talking Phillies, we never talk about Zach Wheeler, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing because a lot of the conversation, and really, we're not even talking as much about Aaron Nola either, right? That was a lot of conversation last year was Aaron Nola. It's all been about your number 3 guy is leading the staff right now, and not because of necessarily the performance of the other guys, because he's been that tremendous. And he has been knocking on the doorstep because the way he performed in the playoffs the last 2 years specifically, he kind of felt like he was knocking on the door. He was kind of approaching the doorstep of making a breakthrough. And it does seem like this year, to what you said with health-wise, if he can stay healthy and if this team hits the way it does, that always – and the way if they field behind him, it always builds up confidence for guys knowing that your offense is going to pick it up for you, and your guys out there behind you, they're going to pick it up when the ball makes contact off the bat. There's no reason he can't keep rolling.
Chrome, you're spot on, and I think the point that I was going to make to Tom just a second ago, but you kind of just dialed in on it, was that success in the postseason the last 2 years, and not just the fact that he was successful, but the fact that this team had the confidence in him to give him the ball in tough spots,
like really big games.
Yeah, like I think that was the piece that was missing for him. Was did he know in his own mind that he could do it? And when the team had the confidence in him to give him the ball in those spots, and he executed and he made pitches and he got the big outs, like that was the breakthrough. So you are absolutely spot on. That playoff performance the last 2 years is what's manifested Ranger Suarez to the pitcher we see today.
And it's not even
coming out party.
Yeah, and it's not even just that he did it. He always just even keel.
Yep.
He never gets too high and I love that. When you have a pitcher has a demeanor like that, like a lot of people can mistake that for, when things aren't going well, do they care? Are they this, that, whatever? He's just very like even keel. There's nothing that seems to faze him. So when guys get on base and you got 2 guys on with 1 out or no outs, he's finding ways to work out of these, and he did that in the postseason. To be able to do that in the postseason against some of the toughest teams in the league, some of the toughest lineups. When you look at that Padres lineup a couple of years ago, when you look at Atlanta, and to be able to do those kind of things, I mean, if you can't build a confidence in yourself, a self-belief in yourself after that, then there's nothing that's going to be able to. And he still has that same demeanor as you see him in the postseason, in the NLCS, and in the World Series. He just keeps it even, doesn't get overly excited, and it's like, it's almost like next pitch. He's going pitch by pitch, and that's what's great about him.
And the greatest thing about him is, like you said, his composure, but he just goes back and fills his zone up, right? He's just a zone filler. He's going to pitch to contact. He's going to try to keep you off balance, and when he doesn't have his best stuff, he's still filling the zone up. So I mean, that's the, you know, his best quality throwing the baseball is that part of it, right? His stuff's delicious, right? And I think getting to really start to trust your stuff and realize how delicious it is, and you already were a strike thrower. And I think the more he's trusted his stuff, the more he's even been in the zone, right? Then you could say maybe when he was a little bit younger. As he keeps trusting his stuff more and more, you see him get better and better and better. It's been fun to watch because you don't have these types of things that happen often, where a guy you watch a guy grow into a dominant pitcher in this league. You know, a lot of guys come up and they have the billing for it, and you sort of expect it. Ranger came out of nowhere. You know, you could say those postseasons were sort of his slow coming out parties. This has put him on the map. You know, they started it. What he's done through his first 10 starts, whatever it is, 11 starts. I don't know where we're at, but enough. It's a little bit of a coming out party.
No, you're right. And guys try to get too fine too. When these guys start to lose a little bit of confidence, guys start to get on base, they try to get too cute. They try to paint corners. They try to, you know, deceive the hitter with movement. And he does. He just keeps with his game plan, keeps it moving. He throws the pitches in the strike zone to pitch to contact. He has the confidence in the guys behind him. And I think that's been more successful for him than not.
10 walks in 59 innings. You want to know why Ranger Suarez is successful? You don't got to look much further.
That's the change.
Damn.
That's the change.
That's huge.
That's the change in Ranger Suarez, right? And I think it's those postseason successes that he had where he's pounded his zone and he's had success. And this year, he's a different pitcher. Today felt like a start from last year or 2 years ago, right, where he tried to nibble too much. And I'll give him the pass on the weather, right? The first few innings was terrible probably to play in, probably tough to grip the ball, right? So you get and plus you're 7-0, you end up being 8-0, right? So you still got the win. So I'll give you a little bit of pass, but eight pitches through like 5 innings, that's an old Ranger Suarez, right? That was Ranger Suarez that wasn't attacking the zone. What we've seen this year, for the most part, is him, as you guys have all said, hammering that zone, daring these guys to hit the ball because he knows his defense is behind him. And so far this year, except for what we said about Rojas, our defense is catching the ball this year.
Right. Well, the amazing thing about it is that his success has come because he's learned how to pitch backwards. I mean, he does not work off of his fastball. He works off of a changeup and a slider, and then he spots the fastball. Whereas 4 years ago, when he struggled, it was because he couldn't locate the fastball. Then he would start nibbling. Then his pace would slow down. Now, he doesn't rely on the fastball. He'll rely on the off-speed stuff, spot the fastball, work in, out, up, down, location. And as long as he keeps that pace, the success is just coming.
Absolutely. And the pace is a big part of it too. You're right. I mean, his pace when he's going is hard to get on him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's hard to get on him. And like I said, even Sanchez has pitched well. So, you know, Walker has gotten better every start, right? Since Taijuan Walker's came back, all 3 starts, every start's been better than the first.
And I don't think it's a coincidence though that the better Christopher Sanchez we see is the one that throws his changeup.
Yo, yeah. I mean, a lefty that has a really good changeup, you need to use it. It's the changeup's such a weapon from the left side, even more so sometimes than the right side.
Every time Sanchez goes out there and tries to gas 97, 98 for 6-7 innings, that's when he gets into trouble. When he throws, a good amount of off-speed stuff, keeps the hitters off balance, that's when he has his success.
Yeah, guys catch up in this league, so you ain't just throwing it by him. But Bryson Stott's got hot boys. You know, there's some guys who have picked it up, and like we said, it's a fun team. You could have, you know, you ask who like the catalyst is or who your favorite player is. I mean, you could go on a laundry list with this team. You know, of guys that have been the part of them winning the way they've won, and that's led them to the best team in baseball. But we know it. It all starts with your starting pitching. It all starts with your pitching, right? As much as we love hitting, and I'm a hitting guy, I love it. But it all starts with your pitching, you know. And you get great pitching like this, like they have. It calms everybody down, man. It calms everybody down. What is their record when they scored over 4 runs? I don't know, but I know it's like ridiculous. And I might go try to do it myself as we segue into Sixers. But you know, I feel like it's absurd. I gotta find it.
Well, I don't know that, Tommy, but I do know they're on about 110 plus pace right now.
Oh, yeah,
obviously, that's not going to happen. But I think even if they end up at like from here on out playing at a 500 clip, I still think that puts them over 90 wins. You know what I mean? So you're sitting there like, go ahead, Luke.
If they go 500, I saw after the win today, if they go 500 the rest of the season, they finish with the same amount of wins as last year already.
Right.
Yeah.
So this banking that they've done against these bad teams, has kind of almost set them up to – we know it's not going to continue, right? We all know that these hot streaks come to an end. But it saves them and it allows them to buy through that, right? To get through that and still not be in a bad spot. Whereas if you lose throughout April, then you got to play balls to the wall at the end of the year. Now you can stay even and play at worst 500 baseball.
Yeah, it gives them a little bit of leeway in terms of, even down the road as the season goes on, starting to rest guys, right? You start building up a little bit of space between you and some of these other teams. You start locking in your playoff position. Gives you an opportunity to start maybe resting some guys, go to a 6-man rotation, and really make sure the guys are rested for when October rolls around.
See, my whole thing, though, is this a hot streak or is this just who they are? I mean, they're 31.
You're right, Mike.
Hey,
Not that many good teams.
No, and some of the teams that I think before who were considered juggernauts, I think have come back to the pack a little bit. The Dodgers and some of these other teams, I think they've come back to the pack, and the Phillies have strengthened their team. Like you mentioned Bryson Stott, Tom. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about him, slow start, right? You knew it was coming around with the turnaround for him. Getting him and Bohm going, we said that's 2 huge names this year that we thought would make a huge impact on this team. And through the stretch of these guys who haven't been able to get on the field necessarily lately, some of your bigger names, he's been able to pick up the football and keep going with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they're 31-13, and I think their longest win streak is 9. And obviously, I mean, that's significant when you've only played 44 games, but it's not like this was a team that's basically put together like, a 10-game win streak and a 12-game win streak, and the rest of their season has been I mean, I think they're just playing good, consistent ball.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I think that's who they are, right? More so than it's like, oh, they're playing out of their minds. Like, no, that's who they are, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. They've had 3 losses where they scored 4 runs or more.
Wow.
They don't have any losses, obviously.
That's been an issue in the past. So it's huge.
That was funny. That was the funny thing about like Miami, right? We're down there and they had that walk-off. They only have 10 wins, 11 wins, but 3 of their 11 wins were walk-offs.
Yeah.
So it's just like you don't win enough anyway, but how are you winning all these walk-offs?
Right? It's funny. All right, boys, before we get out of here, Sixers hold on to the 16th pick. They keeping it, they trading it. What do you think?
I'd like him to hold it.
I don't think there's any chance they hold on to it, especially if they want the guy that they are claiming and clamoring for that they will get I just don't think there's any chance they do. I think they're lucky that they have such a great selection compared to the picks they've had in previous years. You know, they can flex this around. I also think that this talk of it being such a bad draft is completely overrated. I think it's a horrible draft if you're Washington or if you're Atlanta or someone picking all the way at the top because you're not getting the great superstar. There's a lot of guys right where we pick that will be great role players, and they go all throughout 10, like the 8 range, all the way down to 20. Those guys are there. It just doesn't pop off like there's no Zion and there's no crazy guy that if
no
you're
star power.
yeah, there's no star power. Or if you're in need of desperate help, you're not getting that. But you're
Yeah,
gonna get a good role player. You totally can.
Yeah, like the fall off from in terms of the talent level is the drop off between a lottery pick to, after that isn't like astronomical. Like
Yeah.
like essentially, somebody who drafts somebody at 5 to who we might get at 16, not that big of a drop off, which is not unusual for most years. I agree with you though. I don't. I would like to see them keep the pick, but if they go out and they get a Jimmy Butler or a Dejounte Murray or somebody of that ilk, that pick's going to have to be included.
100%. I was watching you guys on Sunday, and the name came up, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't think they will do it. I think they're gonna go after a bigger name, but I think it's got to be Dejounte Murray for numerous reasons.
Love the fit.
The fit is perfect, and if you look around the NBA right now, the Sixers are lacking one thing more than anything, and that's they're lacking athletes. I like Nico Batum. I like Kyle Lowry. I like these guys. They're playable in the NBA in the playoffs. I understand that, but they can't log 40 minutes. They're not athletes. They're lacking athletes at such a dire degree. Like, if you look at the Pacers, I know last night's kind of an anomaly, but the reason why they've been able to keep them off the glass isn't because of their size, isn't because of anything. They have athletes. Dallas, they don't have a crazy amount of size. They have athletes around their 2 stars. Denver, that's what all these teams have. If you're not athletic around your 2 guys, you're not going to get anything. Because I hate to break it to you, but Maxey and Embiid aren't going to do the dirty work all day, every day. They're just not going to because they have enough, tasks on the floor itself than to be able to chase loose balls and to do the little things that are desperately needed to go on deep playoff runs. They've never had that. Even if you go past years ago, they've never had athletes. They need to start doing that. That's got to be the path.
I mean, my ideal offseason, and I don't think it's going to happen, would be Dejounte Murray, and if they could somehow bring in OG Anunoby. To me, that's where you start, and then just start filling in after that.
I like Nico Batum. I like Nico Batum. I'm not going to shit on him, and I want him back on the team, but I want him in a bench role. There's no world, and I'm going to sound like a hater, but I'm not. There's no world where he should log more than 30 minutes in a playoff game. It just shouldn't happen. He's too old to hang around that long in a playoff game. He's just not athletic anymore. They don't have the guys. That's why I don't want to sit up here and talk about Embiid and Maxey. They average 65 a night. What else are you getting out of those guys? They did all they could possibly do. You got nothing out of the whole rest of your team. What do you want?
I see your point, but if I remember correctly, I saw him make quite a few defensive plays at the end of games, at the back stretch of those 30 minutes on a pretty athletic Jalen Brunson to give them a couple of opportunities to win some games there. So
I want him back, but those offensive rebounds and those little things don't happen if older, less athletic guys aren't on the floor. That's what you see around the whole NBA. The NBA is a trend league more than any other league itself. And if you are late to the party, we'll be out of the first round once again. It doesn't matter how talented your top 2 guys are. And I'm expecting Maxey to be a second-team All-NBA player next year. Like a legitimate around 30-point per game player.
Yeah, I mean,
and it wouldn't matter.
It's a fair point. I mean, I would bring Nico back. I would bring Kyle Lowry back. And if you can't get a guy like an Anunoby, then I would look at bringing Buddy Hield back. Because I do think you saw the glimpses of actually utilizing Buddy Hield the right way. Greg's been hammering it all season, right? Guy can't find his own shot. And finally in the playoffs, he just found a spot and they got the ball to him and he started hitting baskets and contributing. And if that's the guy we could get for next year, that's the guy that can contribute to a championship team in the city. Not the guy who's got to go out and create his own spot, his own shots. So,
Right.
I mean, I would rather have like an Anunoby or somebody else with that kind of money. But if not, Buddy Hield's the guy I would look at to bring back to. Everybody else to me can take a walk, including
And
Paul.
if DeJounte's the guy that you absorb his salary and that's the contract you bring in here, you still have, if you cut Paul Reed, you still have like just under $50 million left to spend to round out your roster with legitimate athletes, 3-and-D players that are playing in today, like right now. Those are the teams still alive. Oklahoma City, Denver, Dallas, Boston, all these teams, that's what they have. We don't, and that's why we're at home again.
Luke, we got our own little Howie over here for the Sixers and Luke.
Oh my, he is.
I just shut up when Luke starts talking Sixers.
Oh, he's our GM over here.
He's
I don't.
Sam Hinkie.
He's
our Hinkie, yeah.
We trust.
You got a longer shelf life with us than Hinkie had with the Sixers, though. Look, we got your back.
Greg pouring one pouring
one out for the homie. I miss that guy.
I just don't understand what these guys do all day. And on top of it, right, they have scouts that are scouting and looking at these analytics. What do these guys watch basketball in May? I feel like sometimes I sit back and I'm like, I have to be watching more basketball than them. It just doesn't make any sense, the teams that they bring out on the court and expect to win multiple playoff series. There's a reason why your main player and all the guys around him for the last 8 years or however long it's been hasn't been able to survive a second playoff series. It's because they are not athletic enough to deal with a second playoff series. And if you want to build a championship team, you have to survive 4 of them. I mean, what planet are we on that we're going to build? I like Nico Batum. I like Lowry. These guys are old. They're breaking down. You want to put them on the court for 20 minutes, that's fine. But you can't have them out here as a starting role and this big role, and next to your guy Embiid, have him count on a Nico Batum to hit big shots. When I look at Dallas right now, PJ Washington is putting up 30 a game right now.
He's a beast right now.
But he wasn't seen like that in the deadline where we needed to hold on to these draft picks for what? For what reason? I cannot wait to see the guy they bring in here. Oh,
Why? Why? What do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be either Paul George, and the only star, big name, that could get me to drink the Kool-Aid is Jimmy Butler. That's it. I mean, unless LeBron's coming here, but I don't think that's happening. But it's Jimmy Butler, and it's only because he shows up in the playoffs. Anyone else, I'm not here for, realistically. Paul George, I mean, come on.
I almost wonder if Jimmy, that whole thing with Pat Riley, like, does Jimmy have that ulterior motive? Like, does he know what because Jimmy's a very calculated guy. So, I almost feel like he knew what he was doing. Not just shooting his mouth off. It makes me curious.
Yeah, maybe he told that guy to record that or something. Maybe.
Like, I don't know.
It's possible. I don't hate it.
He knew he knew that was going to come up. And Pat Riley happens to have the thing the next day. He knew what he was doing. I think he's trying to leverage himself out of Miami. I think he's over the whole Miami experiment there. Although I think I like Bam a lot. I think Bam's a tremendous player, but I think he would like to come back and get it done with Joel. I really do. I think he realized that team's only going to get so far, and they're never going to get over that hump.
Yeah, he might be coming back to a team that does the same thing. So.
Didn't have a Tyrese Maxey when he was here last year.
Common denominator is.
I mean, all I'm going to say with that is that some guy is. This is what's crazy, in that all these people that get hired by this team to do whatever the hell they do all summer to build a team and spend money and allocate their draft picks. This guy is a plus 400 in the playoffs when he's on the court, and he hasn't made it out of the second round. The problem clearly lies, who the hell is he playing with? And why are they so bad when he's off the court? If you want to be this big analytical general manager and flex all your analytics, and you are so oblivious to just go past that, what the hell are you doing? Why do you even get paid? What do you get paid for? You have to build an entire roster out of guys, not just 3 star players. And I know I said it last week, but I'm completely retracting what I said last week. I don't forget I even said that. They don't need a star. They need 5 good basketball players on their team.
You've been hanging around Tom too long. We can call you Flip Flop Junior.
Yes, but I'm staying here for the whole summer. The whole summer. I swear I am. They
Until
need
next week.
5, but they do. They need 5 legitimate playable NBA players on their team, not another guy that might put up 25. And it's a classic. Oh, here's game 6 at home. You got to have it or you go home. And there's a classic. I'll shoot the ball 10 times and I'll put up 4 points. And there's your max money again. But the big thing that's been going viral on Twitter the last few days, and this is what makes me pretty upset. Joel Embiid was 24 when we gave Tobias a max contract. Let's just sink. And now he's 30. Let's just have that sink in for a second.
I stand by what I said. Up until that 0-point performance, I think there was a chance they would have bought Tobias back on a lesser contract. I really do.
You're not wrong.
You can't bring him back after that 0-point performance in Game 6. It's impossible. I mean, that was the dagger. I mean, maybe that was the pass layup by Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? There's a moment where it's like you can't bring him back. That was it for him.
The Eagles brought back Nick Sirianni. I mean, what collapse was worse, Tobias Harris or the Eagles? Whose fall from grace was worse?
Was Tobias just being calculated? You know what I mean? Trying to get out of here? Who knows?
It crossed my mind, Tom. It crossed my mind. Did he know? I don't think he's intentionally losing, but was he perfectly okay with deferring the ball all through Game 6? It sure as hell looked like it.
He's scared. And you gave that guy $180 million. And the other guy is not scared at any moment. And you let him walk for Josh Richardson.
Well, this whole they bought Tobias back over him was not. He didn't want to play for Brett Brown. And for whatever reason, they weren't ready to move on from Brett Brown. That's the problem.
I think it was either him or Ben Simmons. I'm with you.
It was Brett Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy's talked about how he Brett Brown, nice guy, didn't love playing for him, didn't make adjustments, didn't do this, didn't do that. I think Jimmy didn't want to play for him. And at the end of the day, they knew that Jimmy wasn't going to come back, and their contingency was, well, we invested in both these guys making moves. We're going to put the money towards Tobias Harris.
Man, people can deny all they want, but Brett Brown and Ben Simmons were a package deal.
Yep.
And that was it. That's exactly why.
He's always with his dad, the whole thing, yeah.
That's exactly why they kept Brett Brown, because Ben Simmons was here. Because I also don't think Jimmy liked playing with Ben Simmons either. And if you're not going to move on from those two guys, so that whole me Tobias Harris over me, I think it was just Jimmy doing a Jimmy that thing. But at the core of it, it had nothing to do with Tobias Harris. It had everything to do with Brett Brown and Ben Simmons. And in hindsight, I think even then we kind of knew. We see what Ben Simmons is. What a massive, massive miscalculation on that.
Yeah, but all he did was Brett Brown and Ben Simmons weren't here anymore. So when he beat us, Tobias was. So that's why he went and used Tobias.
You're right. Exactly. I mean, it was a nice, fun clip to go viral.
Yeah, you can't say, well, Ben isn't here. You chose Ben Simmons over me. Well, Ben's not here anymore anyway. So it doesn't hold as much weight as, oh, you picked Tobias over me. Because I don't think he was mad that Tobias was there. I think it all came down to him finding out that Ben's a pussycat and Brett Brown's not a good coach. He's a player development guy.
He went when he left, one of the most telling things, it's been a while now, but he went on a podcast and said his most telling memory of what was going on in here was that there was a players meeting one time where Brett called him, JJ, Ben, Tobias, and Embiid in, and he walked out of the meeting and he said right to Joel, he's like, why would I ever go back to one of those again? Nothing got accomplished.
Yeah, that might have been on
waste
JJ's
of my
podcast.
time. Yep, exactly what it was. Yep. And it's just that's all you need to know. I get it. I'm a maniac. I need help, but I and we're probably gonna lose the second round again. This is what a team looks like. This is what a team looks like a roundabout if it's DeJounte. This is what they can afford and kind of how they can round out their roster. So
did you put a team together?
I did the whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing.
This is why we got Luke Hinkey over here. Let's go.
Here we go. All right, so obviously starting in your backcourt is Maxey and DeJounte, and then you can bring back Oubre with that money, and then the 4 is kind of debatable, but you can sign and trade and get like a Miles Bridges from Charlotte in here and Embiid. That's your starting 5. That's athletes and defenders and 3-point shooters around your 2, and then off your. I didn't even get to the bench because this is what you can also do. You can afford an Andre Drummond and a Malik Monk as well because DeJounte's contract is very affordable. Oubre's only slated to make around $8 to $10 million a year if he comes back. And it just makes everything so much easier. And you can go over the cap to sign Maxey back because he was already on the team. So does a team of Maxey, DeJounte, Oubre, Miles Bridges, and Embiid with Malik Monk and Andre Drummond off your bench, that's a championship team. I have 7 legit NBA players on my team that are better than most of the teams playing even right now.
Well, then I think you can bring back like a Lowry, maybe
right, Batum on a minimum. Yep, totally.
At a lower number too. It does give you that opportunity to do that. You sold me, Luke. I'm in.
But that's why, if you go in and bring a Jimmy Butler or if it's a Paul George, you can't say, oh, I want Malik Monk or I want Miles Bridges. That's going to have to be a tier lower of a player, and I just don't know if that cuts it now. Because, can Morey stretch $1? I just don't think he can.
Really thinking he's working.
He used to.
Working into his head.
He used to be able to.
Right, and now all of a sudden,
his teams in Houston, he used to be creative. His teams in Houston had some talent, but they also had assets, right? Yeah. They also had picks and that talent potentially to move.
I mean, he had.
Well, in fairness to him, he walked into a situation with no assets because the previous regime traded all the assets away to try to build a team that wasn't ready to get around Embiid. Right, because
infiltrated by the NBA.
No, that was after that. I mean, Elton Brand's the one who dealt all the stuff to get Jimmy and Tobias. That wasn't Colangelo.
Yeah, that's true.
They were behind the 8 ball before them, but you're right. He emptied the cupboard.
Anything that was left, Elton took care of at that deadline, and that's why he had to sign one of them back. But when I look at that team, I think that team's really good, Luke. I think that's a phenomenal job out of you. I just wonder if Jimmy Butler's better than Murray.
Well, my thing is, yes, he's better than Murray, but would you rather have him or would you rather have DeJounte, Malik Monk, and Miles Bridges? And in today's NBA, where you need a ton of different athletes throughout an 82-game season where everyone gets hurt and whatever the case may be, I'm taking the 3 guys. Yeah, I love Jimmy, and I will drink the Kool-Aid if they do trade him back here because I love him to death. Mm-hmm. But I would rather have the 3 guys.
Yeah, the accumulation and the age. The age is a factor as well.
I don't think there's anything. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that thought process at all. I mean, I agree with you. I watch a lot of NBA games too, and I see the athletes rolling around. I'm like, why don't we have this?
And who out of everyone on our current roster is a free agent outside of Maxey, obviously? Who's the one guy that everyone's clamoring to get back? Who's the one guy that everyone wants back? Kelly Oubre, because he fits the exact mold. And we want to gloss over it and bring in all these big name guys that like a Paul George who going into a pivotal game 6, I don't know what the heck I'm going to get out of him. So you want to spend $50 million on that? Where's the logic from that? I just don't get it.
I think Darryl did a good job at this before this trade deadline. Like I thought, he put when he traded, when the Harden move happened, I really thought he put a roster together that was like deep, right? The one thing we could say early on when that deal was made, this roster was deep. Was there some older guys? Yeah, I mean, obviously Cov's a little bit older now, Batum's older, right? Marcus Morris, I get it, but I don't care what anybody says. This roster was deep, and this roster had the makings of a roster that can play with anybody because they had those they had the little bit of toughness. They had, there was enough athletes on the floor, right? And I think like the injuries and losing Melton and losing Cove, I think that hurt some of what they were trying to do here. And then they had to make moves a little bit for next year, and that's why they had to do some of the things they did. But I didn't hate what they had at one point this year. I thought that was the type of roster that was good enough. To your point, Luke, I know a little bit older, right? I get it, but I still thought that was the type of roster that we were looking for. Maybe a little older in the tank, older in the tooth, right? A little long in the tooth, but it was more of that type of roster. So I don't
really think he's made a bad move, like a bad trade. I just question what he values. And now we talk about a blank canvas. That's pretty much the theme of the summer. I question, okay, you're given everything, all these draft picks, all this money. What do you value? Because that's what's so important. And I think he values the one guy. And I really think in today's NBA, that's going to go back to haunt you when you already have two of them.
Well, maybe, you wonder if he realizes he has two of them now.
Well, I know, but I don't want to sit up here and listen to your press conference and say, what's your biggest need? My biggest need is a star. Is it? Are you watching basketball today, Darryl?
What did he say, a star? Did he say?
He said, I want a wing player that's going to play high-level basketball in the playoffs. Now, you can interpret that however you want. To me, that's, in my opinion, his mind is saying, I want a guy that's going to put up 20 a night on the wing, like a Paul George or whatever, like those kind of guys.
I mean, it could be a DeJounte Murray, though. And the thing is, right, I come into – I think you're right in that the circumstances he came into and the moves that he's made, particularly with literally no leverage in multiple situations, and he's managed to build up assets and get us to this place where we have, $60+ million in cap space. I think that kind of shows that there is a understanding of what we're getting to. And I feel like this year, right, was a blueprint year. It's let's add depth guys. They came out of that deal, like to what Tom said, right? I feel like deep depth-wise, this was one of their better teams. If Embiid was healthy and some other things went their way, yes, I still think they could have competed for a champion. They would have beat the Knicks, right? Situation is what it is. However, I do think this gave them a blueprint, to continue the development of Tyrese Maxey with veteran role players around him, as well as, okay, now that we have a clean slate, we've seen what type of players do work well with Tyrese and Embiid going forward. Now, let's build it with some new names, maybe some younger names, and build up, like you said, more of the athletic version of some of those roles that those guys filled.
I can sit up here right now and tell you that they are probably going into next year in a better case than 99% of the NBA. There's a new CBA deal coming. The salary cap's going to change. Boston might have to get rid of one of their guys just for salary cap reasons. Denver, same thing. They're not going to be able to pay. They're not going to be able to pay Aaron Gordon and Porter. One of those guys are going to have to go. So you're going into a league
all day. Let's go.
You're going into a league where everything is wide open, and you're the only team with 2 stars and a ton of money and a ton of picks. You have the potential to, going into October, have the best roster with one of the best young player development coaches in all of the league. I don't want this to be blown on a Paul George. It would be unbelievably tragic because this is the last chance. And the Don Don's comment, in a dream world, yes, I would love Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. I just think it might cost too much to get him here. But
what about KD?
That's to me the same thing where it's like the 20+ point per game guy. Yes, he's going to show up, but like he's just a mess. Like I don't like the mess that comes with KD.
Well, I think that the problem with all of this is that, you know, you have great names and you guys are making great points and everything like that. But, you know, let's not kid ourselves. The NBA is a very ego-driven league, and you got to really find the right personalities that are going to want to come here and basically be the third option behind Maxey and Embiid. A lot of guys want the ball in their hands, and a lot of guys you named want the ball in their hands. So you got to find a guy, and it's tough because, you know, a guy like Tobias Harris was okay playing, you know, third man, but then he disappeared when we really needed that third man.
I
So
mean,
you got to really find the guy who, you know, is okay playing that, you know, third option role through the regular season and still having the ability to step up when he's needed in the playoffs.
I'll bring up the point right now. I think the third guy argument is fair, but in terms of what we're going into this season, out of all these teams that are still playing, who are the third guy on all these teams? Like, actually, because if you look at Dallas, it's been PJ Washington. That's not a star, big name, unbelievable level player.
I'm not saying it has to.
No, I'm talking to Daryl Morey if I could, because that's where he's going. And so, like, when you bring up egos, I don't want a guy with a big ego. DeJounte Murray shouldn't have a big ego because he's been the second option on a team that's been horrendous and currently has the number 1 pick. So if he has an ego, then he's wrong to have an ego, and we don't want him anyway. But like a Mikal Bridges, that's not a guy with an ego. He went to the finals as that number 3 guy. Like, arguably maybe even number 4 guy after Ayton. Like, all these guys that they should want to bring in shouldn't have these egos. They shouldn't be a third guy. There's no outstanding third guy still playing right now in the playoffs. It doesn't exist. So why should we be the team that wants to spend $150 million per year on 3 players? Why should we be the team that breaks it? Look at Phoenix. How did that end up?
Well, but here's the thing, Luke. I'm not saying that you're wrong. Philosophically, you are 100% spot on. What I'm saying is that you got to find the personality to fit the philosophy.
Right.
And there's a lot of guys out there that think they deserve more shots, more minutes, more run, whatever you want to call it. And some of those guys may be the guys that we're talking about. Some of those guys may not be. It's really going to be up to Daryl Morey to figure out, you know, not only do you need the pieces to fit on the floor, you need the personalities to work off the floor.
No, and to Mike, to your point too, I think that's why some of the older names are guys who would be more willing to come here, like a Jimmy Butler and a Paul George.
Mm-hmm.
These guys who are now at this point ring chasing.
Right, ring chasers. Yeah.
So,
but I just don't.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit like Luke said, though. In terms of what we need, in terms to build this team at its maximum, I do agree with him. But that might be the option we're at, to where we still have money that we could fill a lot of needs. Maybe not as deep as Luke laid it out, although I love what you laid out, Luke. But if that's what our option is in terms of being able to get out of the second round next year and beyond, maybe that might be their only opportunity here.
Well, in a perfect world, you could find the athletes that Luke talks about with the ring chasing mentality that some of the older guys have. And it's real hard to find that mix in 1 or 2 players.
Right. Logically, my thinking with DeJounte is that you wanted to be a second option, so you went to Atlanta. And now that team currently is the number 1 pick. So how does that same guy, I mean, I don't know, maybe he is.
How'd that work out?
Thinking that? Yeah, but like, how do you can't just keep doing that. Like, clearly something's off. So you'd think he'd want to go to a good team as that number 3. You would think. He's been on bad teams his whole career. San Antonio is horrendous.
He got drafted to a bad team.
Yeah. So you'd think he'd want to come to a good team. It's time.
Yeah, Greg, I would love Aaron Gordon. You know, that's some of the athleticism that Luke's talking about too.
That actually might be one of those guys who has the athleticism and is willing to chase the ring.
Yeah, but now that he's tracing the money, is he now saying, I want to get paid? I got my ring. Maybe he has a second ring this season, and he's like, where's my money? Because that's normally what happens with some of these guys.
And kudos to him if he does, because he's really turned himself into a legit pro now.
Yeah,
coming out of
Orlando,
Denver was almost his last stop potentially.
He was a dunk contest guy.
He was a dunker.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Yep, just a jumper. That's all. Just big ups. Well,
I know all about that.
Yeah, you can tell. You guys, boys, got anything else on our way out of here?
No.
Nope. Go Phils.
Go Phils. Luke covered it all.
Quick shout out to a friend of the program, Blue Meanie. His birthday's coming up. So happy birthday, Brian.
Meanie.
Happy birthday, brother.
Happy birthday.
Don, happy birthday. Whenever you
Don, your
Happy
Pistons
birthday,
got,
Don.
your Pistons got screwed, Don.
They always
Still
do.
my birthday 2 months right now, by the way.
Oh my God.
Oh, they did get screwed pretty bad.
Crumb's going in the next year. He takes his birthday from one year to the next. He's rides the wave. But this has been ATD Wednesday nights. We love you all. If you haven't already, on the way out of here, hit the like, hit the subscribe, turn your alerts on. Stay with us. Shows every night here on ATD Radio. We love you. We appreciate you. We are brought to you by Baggio's Bread. Go check them out. New location, Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Use promo code ATD, 10% off. From Mike Mataraki, Greg Moakovic, Heel Chrome, Luke Brown. I'm Tom Arnone. We love you. We appreciate you. See you next week.
Peace.